and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Battle Report brought to you by the Legion Wargaming. Today we find ourselves on a planet where there is a conflict raging between the forces of Craftworld Iyanden and the Vanguard chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. Both sides have decided that the time for a critical strike against the enemy has arrived. The scenario today is an eternal war mission. It is big guns never tire, 2,500 points with Vanguard strike deployment, and the table today is covered with rocky outcroppings, some disused military buildings over which the forces of the Eldar and Space Marines will attempt to seize three objectives, which are placed centrally, one at the foot of this rocky outcropping, another one in this dangerously open ground, and one on top of this rock in the shadow of a ruined shrine. This should be a good one. There's no love lost between these two forces. Let's take a look at the armies. This 2,500 point Craftworld Eldar army is battle forged and consists of a combined arms detachment and two aspect hosts. The combined arms detachment is made up of the Eldar of Craftworld Iyanden and is led by a Spirit Seer. He has brought along with him two squads of 10 Guardians. One has a platform with a Shuriken cannon and a Warlock, and the other has a platform with a Star Cannon and a Warlock. This being Craftworld Iyanden, they have also brought the spirits of their ancestors to help them out. A Wraith Lord with an Eldar missile launcher, Bright Lance and Flamers, and a squad of 5 Wraith Guard with their D cannon. They are mounted in a Wave Serpent. It has twin link Bright Lances and an underslung Shuriken cannon. They've also brought along some of their own Craftworlds Aspect Warriors in the form of 6 Dire Avengers led by an Exarch, and they will be mounted in a Falcon with a pulse laser and a scatter laser, and this Iyanden Falcon will be forming a Cloud Strike squadron with 2 more Falcons that will be carrying some of the Aspect Warriors from the Aspect hosts. That formation allows the Falcons to deep strike without scatter and is very, very good, we think. The first Aspect host consists of 6 Fire Dragons. They have an Exarch with a Fire Pike and will be mounted in one of the Cloud Strike Falcons, and a squad of 6 Dire Avengers. They also have an Exarch and they will also be mounted in a Falcon. Both of these Falcons have pulse lasers and Star Cannon. The final Aspect Warriors in this host are 5 Dark Reapers with an Exarch, and they will be adding +1 to their ballistic skill, making them very, very deadly. The other Aspect host will be adding +1 to their weapon skill, making them very good against Space Marines. This host has a squad of 4 Shining Spears. They have an Exarch with a Star Lance. 7 Howling Banshees. They have an Exarch with an Executioner, and they are mounted in a Wave Serpent with twin link Bright Lances. And the final squad in this host is a squad of 6 Striking Scorpions. They have an Exarch with a Scorpion's Claw, and they are also mounted in a Wave Serpent with twin link Bright Lances. And we have a lot of Aspect Warriors, so I felt it's only right to bring a Phoenix Lord. It's Janzar, and she is looking forward to hacking her way through many, many Space Marines today. This looks like a very well balanced and yet extremely powerful list. Let's take a look at what the Vanguard have brought to take them on. This 2,500 point Vanguard army is battle forged. It is a Gladius Strike Force, and as usual, when fielding a full battle company as part of a Gladius, the army looks huge. It is led by a captain in command of 1 battle demi company and a chaplain in command of another. The captain, he just has a power sword. He has brought along with him his command squad. They all have power weapons and they are in a drop pod, and an ironclad dreadnought with 2 heavy flamers, and he is also in a drop pod. The first Battle Demi Company are the Orbital Assault Force, and they have 3 tactical squads all in drop pods. They're all 5 Marines, and each has a melter gun, and each sergeant has a combi melter. The other Battle Demi Company's tactical squads, they are full strength, 10 Marines, and they are mounted in rhinos. One with a flamer, one with a plasma gun, and another one with a flamer. And the Battle Demi Companies also have a 5-man assault squad with 2 flamers, a 5-man Devastator squad with 3 missile launchers, another 5-man Devastator squad, this one with 4 missile launchers, and a bike squad. 2 melter guns, and they also have an attack bike with a multi-melter. And as this is a full battle company, in accordance with the Gladius Strike Force rules, all the drop pods here and all of the rhinos, they cost no points at all. Everything here also gets objectives secured, and they get a tactical combat doctrine to use. As well as the 2 Battle Demi Companies, this Gladius contains 2 auxiliary choices. The first is a suppression force consisting of a squadron of 3 whirlwinds and a land speeder with a heavy flamer and a multi-melter, and a first company task force. We have a squad of 5 Stern Guard. They have a mix of combi weapons, 2 flamers, 2 melters and 1 plasma, and 2 squads of Vanguard veterans, each of 5 Marines. They have twin lightning claws and jump packs. So that has formed a Gladius, 2 core, 2 auxiliary, and this whole force will get each of the Space Marine combat doctrines to use once during the game. We thought the Eldar list looked very formidable, but these Ravens, they look like they have turned up in force. Let's take a look at how the armies deploy. And the armies have deployed, and it looks like the Eldar are concentrating all their forces to take these 2 objectives. Near to their deployment zone, in this broken ground in the centre, they have secured their right flank with a squad of Iyanden Guardians. They have excellent cover, and from there they can give fire with their heavy weapons platform. In the centre, the Spirit Seer, he is embarked aboard a Wave Serpent with the Wraith Guard. Next to him we have the intimidating form of the Iyanden Wraith Lord. Janzar and her Howling Banshees, they are embarked in the Wave Serpent, just moving down from this rocky rise and the barricades. And to their left we have the other squad of Iyanden Guardians. They are supported by the Dark Reapers. They have a great field of fire from the top of this bunker, and on the far left the Striking Scorpions. They have seen the Imperial forces massing to try and take these 2 objectives themselves. They have infiltrated a little bit closer. We think there is going to be a huge combat in the centre of this battlefield. The Eldar, they have a lot in reserve. The Shining Spears, they're outflanking, and the entire Cloud Strike squadron are waiting to descend onto the battlefield with 2 squads of Dire Avengers and a squad of Fire Dragons embarked. So the Eldar, they may be fortunate in having these 2 objectives quite near to them, but it looks like the Ravens are planning to take them as quickly as possible. They have massed a huge amount of force on their right flank, led by their bikes, who are supported by all 3 10-man tactical squads in their rhinos. They are looking to plough forward into this central broken ground to contest these objectives. The Stern Guard, they're also going to be moving forward on foot, and behind them there are a wave of jump packers. The Assault Squad and both squads of Vanguard veterans with lightning claws. The spotting land speeder for the suppression force is also on hand to relay some coordinates back to the 3 whirlwinds. They're right at the back of the Raven Guard deployment zone, but they are looking to absolutely cover this Eldar force with a barrage of missiles. The 2 Devastator squads, they have taken up position in these bunkers, and they have a good field of fire over the objectives from there as well. While their objective secured rhinos are lurking, it looks like they may move forward to take the last objective. Like the Eldar, the Raven Guard have a lot in reserve as well. Possibly even more. They have 3 tactical squads in their drop pods and the command squad, Captain Chaplain in another drop pod, as well as the ironclad Dreadnought. the Ravens, they really have brought a lot of force to this battle. As this is the big guns never tire, there are extra victory points available for the destruction of heavy support choices. The Eldar have 3, the Wraith Lord, the Dark Reapers, and of course the Falcons of the Cloud Strike Squadron. And the Raven Guard also have 3. They have 2 squads of Devastators, and the Whirlwind Squadron. It's looking like there is going to be a huge conflict in the centre over these 2 objectives. The Eldar, they are nearer to these 2 objectives. The Raven Guard are very close to this one. This could be a very interesting and close fought game. The Eldar deployed first, so unless the Raven Guard can seize initiative, we go into Eldar turn 1. With the Raven Guard failing to seize the initiative, the Eldar are on the move, and in a surprising move the Guardians over on their right flank are moving forward, perhaps intending to put some pressure on the Raven Guard Devastators, or at least draw off the inevitable drop pod assault. The Spirit Seer and the Wraith Guard embarked on the Wave Serpent. They have shifted forward slightly, and they are now in control of this objective, while the Wraith Lord stomps its way up to the brow of this hill and stands proud in full view of the whole Space Marine line. Janzar and her Banshees, they have moved forward. They're in cover behind the rocks. They have not yet disembarked from their Wave Serpent. Meanwhile, on their left, the Scorpions' Wave Serpent has moved forward 6 inches, and the Scorpions, they have disembarked. They are in great cover there. This objective looks like it is firmly in Eldar hands, and the Aspect Warriors have the other squad of Guardians moving up in support as well. The only Eldar unit that has not moved are the Dark Reapers. The Eldar think that First Blood is going to be crucial in this scenario, and they are going to try to combine their fire to achieve that. But first, we have Eldar Psychic Phase turn 1. End of Eldar Psychic Phase turn 1, and with the Spirit Seer still embarked on the Wave Serpent, it was left to the Warlocks to summon up as much psychic potential as they could. This Warlock managed to successfully put Quicken on himself and his squad of Guardians, and he followed it up with Conceal, but the other Warlock, he found that Horrify was out of range, so he tried to cast Conceal on his squad but failed, using 3 dice. So a quiet phase, but the forces are still a fair distance away from each other. Let's see if the Eldar have a more successful shooting phase in their first turn. End of an extremely disappointing shooting phase in Eldar turn 1. The Guardians, they managed to run 8 inches with the benefit of Quicken, but they could not take out any Raven Guard Devastators with a shot from their Star Cannon. Meanwhile, the Spirit Seer's Wave Serpent and Janzar's Wave Serpent both fired with their bright lances against the Rhino on this rocky outcrop, but between them they only managed a single glance. The Wraith Lord combined his fire with the Striking Scorpion's Wave Serpent and the Dark Reapers, but very disappointingly they only managed to wound the attack bike and take out the Raven Guard biker sergeant. Meanwhile, the Striking Scorpions, they attempted to run forwards, but even with a reroll they could not make it up to the brow of that rocky outcrop. So the Eldar, they have managed to wound an attack bike, kill 1 sergeant and glance a Rhino, but an incredibly disappointing first turn for them. With no assaults, that brings Eldar turn 1 to a close, going into Raven Guard turn 1. Start of Raven Guard turn 1, and the first wave of drop pods have hammered towards the earth. It looks like the Ravens are intending to bracket the Eldar, surround them in a pocket and then wipe them out, and their priority targets are the Wave Serpent. We have 1 tactical squad with a Melter and Combi Melter attempting to get the Spirit Seer and his Wraith Guard out of their Wave Serpent, and another tactical squad with a Melter and Combi Melter trying to do the same to Janzar and her Howling Banshees. Meanwhile, the Ironclad Dreadnought has come down in his Lucius Pattern Pod, and he has 2 heavy flamers. He is looking just to incinerate as many Eldar as possible. Let's see how the rest of the Ravens move up to support their brothers in Raven Guard movement phase, turn 1. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 1, and the Ravens are being very aggressive. Doubtless they have been given confidence by the arrival of their colleagues from orbit, who already have selected their targets, but the Raven line has surged forward. The bikers and the spotting land speeder, they all have melters. They are looking to take out the striking scorpions, wave serpents. Meanwhile, a tactical squad in their glance rhino, they are motoring up this flank. There is another tactical squad cresting this rocky rise in support, and one squad of Vanguard have run forwards. They are biding their time. The Stern Guard are advancing into the broken ground in the centre. They are hoping that their colleagues can deal with Jane Czar's wave serpent. Meanwhile, the final tactical squad on the ground is motoring towards the Spirit Seer and, more importantly, the objective that he is holding. As we expected, the two objective secured Devastator Rhinos, they have motored forward and surrounded the objective near the Raven Guard deployment zone, and because the Ravens are aware that there is a Cloud Strike formation, one squad of Vanguard and the Assault Squad have hung back. The Devastators and the Whirlwinds have not moved. They are just preparing to give fire. We think this could be devastating to the Eldar. Let's see, with no psychic phase, we go straight into Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 1. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 1, and it looks like the Ravens have dealt the Eldar a crippling blow. Aided by the tactical doctrine, this tactical squad managed to detonate the Wave Serpent carrying the Spirit Seer and his Wraith Guard, and to make matters worse for the Eldar, one of the mighty Wraith Guard was killed in the explosion. The Wraith Lord is also no more. 7 crack missiles streaked out from the Raven Guard Devastators, and all 7 hit. The Eldar war machine was blown to pieces. This tactical squad, they managed to take out Jan Czar's Wave Serpent with their melters as well, and 3 of her Howling Banshee handmaidens also were taken out by the explosion. The Ironclad Dreadnought washed his heavy flamers over this squad of Guardians. The Warlock made a lot of lookout sirs, but 7 of his Guardians were incinerated. They have passed morale. Good news, over on the Eldar left flank, the striking Scorpions Wave Serpent managed to jink its way through 4 penetrating hits dealt out by the Raven Guard bikers and land speeders. So, excellent work by the pilots over here, but the bad news kept coming for the Eldar as 6 Guardians were taken out by a barrage that ignored cover from the Raven Guard Whirlwinds. So the Ravens have easily achieved first blood with 2 Wave Serpents, the Wraith Lord, and now with the deadly Eldar troops in the centre, the Wraith Guard and the Banshees, out of their transports but unable to charge. It looks like the Eldar really need their reinforcements. The Stern Guard ran up in the centre, but a lot of the Raven forces here are still biding their time. They are awaiting the arrival of the Cloud Strike. With no assaults, that brings Raven Guard turn 1 to a close. Will the Eldar be able to recover from here? Let's see, going into Eldar turn 2. Start of Eldar turn 2, and with much relief the Cloud Strike with its cargo of Aspect Warriors have arrived. They have deep sucked straight into the centre of the battlefield. The Eldar have decided they really need to clear out all of the Ravens that are contesting these 2 objectives. They have lost first blood, and the Ravens also got another point for taking down the Wraith Lord, so the Eldar are currently trailing 2 to nothing, but although they would dearly like to start taking out the Devastators and the Whirlwinds, the Ravens have been very canny. They've left Vanguard veterans and assault troops back, so the Eldar have decided that the key to victory is in the centre. And their deadly squadron have arrived. Let's see what they do going into Eldar movement phase turn 2. End of Eldar movement phase turn 2, and despite their losses it looks like the Eldar position in the centre around these 2 objectives has strengthened considerably. The Spirit Seer is leading his 4 remaining Wraith Guard through the smoke of his exploded Wave Serpent. They are hoping to destroy this Rhino with their D-weaponry, and the Guardians are moving up to shred the tactical marines that will surely come spilling out. The Falcons of the Cloud Strike, they are looking to combine their fire taking out the Stern Guard. Meanwhile, The Dire Avengers have disembarked from this Falcon. They are moving. They can take out either tactical squad from there and this squad. They are looking to give fire onto the Raven Guard that are flanking the Eldar position over this side. In the centre, the Fire Dragons have not yet disembarked. They are saving themselves for a better target. The Scorpions are stalking through this gully. They intend to tear the bikers apart in assault. Meanwhile, Janzar, she tried to move forward but with a terrible move through cover roll. She has just been forced to move to make way for the newly disembarked Dire Avengers. But surely with their speed they can get into a better position with a run. The Guardians are moving up to get away from the ironclad dreadnought more than anything. And the Dark Reapers, they are going to finish off whichever Raven Guard tactical squad is left after the Dire Avengers open fire. Meanwhile, the last remaining Wave Serpent has hopped up onto this landing pad to give fire with its bright lances. So the Eldar, they are in strength in the centre and they still have the Shining Spears who have not come on from reserve. Unfortunately, the Ravens have yet more waiting in their drop pods to arrive as well. Let's see what the Eldar can do in Eldar Psychic Phase Turn 2. End of Eldar Psychic Phase Turn 2, and with only 5 dice, the Spirit Seer used every single one of them to cast invisibility on the Cloud Strike Squadron. That is a very good result for the Eldar. Let's see if they can capitalise on it. Going into Eldar Shooting Phase Turn 2. End of Eldar Shooting Phase Turn 2, and Craftworld Iyanden has struck back. The Wraith Guard started off by annihilating the tactical squad's Rhino with their D-weaponry. 2 Marines, one from each combat squad, was taken out in the explosion and another was shot down by the advancing Iyanden Guardians. The Cloud Strike, they combined their firepower and wiped out the Stern Guard easily. They're invisible and dominating the centre of the battlefield. That is a big problem for the Space Marines. The newly arrived Dire Avengers, they managed to gun down 4 Marines from this squad, crucially including the Sergeant and the Marine with the melter gun. Janzar has had to run. She does not want to get embroiled in a combat with the ironclad dreadnought. Meanwhile, the Dark Reapers, they cleared the way for Janzar by wiping out this tactical squad with their Reaper launchers. And more good performances over on the Eldar left flank. These Dire Avengers, they shot down the wildly jinking Raven Guard Landspeeder, and the striking Scorpions, in preparation for their charge, have taken out a biker. Finally, with a shot from its twin-linked Bright Lances, this Wave Serpent has immobilised the Raven Guard Rhino cresting this rocky rise. So we have been removing Marines by the bucketful here. The Eldar have shown how deadly they are. Let's see if they can finish off a great turn by having a good assault phase. Eldar Assault Phase Turn 2. End of Eldar Assault Phase Turn 2, and the Scorpion Exarch with his claw made very short work of the 2 remaining Raven Guard bikers, although the bikers did manage to each shoot down a Scorpion with their twin-link bolters with Overwatch. So the Eldar are strongly holding the 2 central objectives. They also have the invisible Cloud Strike. The Ravens are holding 1, but they have first blood and they are doing a better job at taking out heavy support choices at the moment. This really is anybody's game. Let's see if the rest of the Raven Guard drop pods turn up in Raven Guard Turn 2. Start of Raven Guard Turn 2, and the Eldar have been granted a reprieve as neither of the 2 remaining drop pods for the Ravens have turned up. So their captain, their chaplain, the command squad, they remain out of play, as does another tactical squad. Let's see what the Ravens do with their ground forces in Raven Guard Movement Phase Turn 2. End of Raven Guard Movement Phase Turn 2, and although their last 2 drop pods have not arrived, they are still attempting to capitalise on the fact that they outnumber the Eldar heavily. 20 tactical Marines have deployed from these Rhinos, and the tactical doctrine is in effect. They are looking to sweep away the Scorpions and the Dire Avengers with an absolute hail of bolt fire. Meanwhile, these Vanguard veterans, they have moved more centrally. They are not sure where the Cloud Strike is headed. They are looking to head it off. The other Vanguard veterans and the assault squad have once again held position. They are very wary of any attempt by the Eldar to take this objective, and they know the Shining Spears are still on their way. The Devastators and the Whirlwinds fell position. They have plenty of targets. The Devastators in particular are looking to take down the Wraith Guard. They may well be joined in their fire by the remaining Tactical Marines in this open piece of ground, or perhaps the Tactical Marines will finish off the Guardians. It looks like the Eldar have formed a very strong line. It's going to be quite difficult for the Ravens to break it without their drop pods, but we shall see. Perhaps the last Marine over here in the shadow of this bunker is the key. With no Psychers, we go into Raven Guard shooting phase turn 2. End of Raven Guard shooting phase turn 2, and these armies really are inflicting huge amounts of damage on each other. The hail of bolter rounds that erupted from these Tactical Marines have left the Scorpions with just their wounded Exarch, and only 2 Dire Avengers guarding this objective. Their Exarch and the rest of their squad have gone down. A long range shot from the Whirlwinds, firing blind, went all the way over and landed on Jane Czar, taking out one of her Banshees and a couple of Dire Avengers, but other than that, they are still standing strong. One Wraith Guard was taken out by a furious volley of bolter fire from these 4 Tactical Marines, but very unluckily the Devastators, both squads combined their fire as well, only managed to take out another one with some terrible rolling. So it looks a very even contest at the moment in the centre. The only other shooting was the Ironclad Dreadnought, who had stomped over behind this bunker in the shooting phase. He managed to incinerate 2 Dark Reapers with his heavy flamers as he prepares to charge them. This game really is too close to call. Let's see what happens in Raven Guard Assault Phase Turn 2. End of Raven Guard Assault Phase Turn 2, and with a mighty roar, the Dreadnought managed to tear his way through this bunker and into the Dark Reapers. The Eldar Aspect Warriors did not stand a chance against his mighty fists and were smashed to pieces. That is another heavy support choice that has been destroyed by the Raven Guard, earning them another victory point. It looks like the Raven Guard are doing well. The only heavy support choice that the Eldar have left are the Cloud Strike. But the Eldar are still holding the objectives in the centre. It does seem that this game is weighted slightly towards the Space Marines. But let's see if the Eldar can turn it around. Going into Eldar turn 3. Start of Eldar turn 3, and bad news once again for the Eldar. The Shining Spears have still failed to arrive. So the Eldar are going to have to make do with what they have, and what they have is getting quite thin on the ground now. One Wave Serpent, the Cloud Strike, they still have 1 squad of Fire Dragons embarked, but the Aspect Warriors have taken a lot of casualties. The Ravens still have drop pods in reserve as well, so could it be the case that the longer this battle goes on, the more and more the advantage will swing towards the forces of the Imperium? We shall see. Eldar movement phase turn 3. End of Eldar movement phase turn 3, and in a surprising move the Cloud Strike Squadron have pulled back from their position on the high ground in the centre. They still have some targets, but the crucial thing is allowing the Central Falcon to deploy its Fire Dragons, as the Eldar have nothing else in their backline that can deal with the Raven Guard Ironclad Dreadnought. Meanwhile, frustratingly, Jane Czar has once again had a terrible move through cover roll. She does not seem to be making much progress so far this battle. And the Dire Avengers, they have to deal with this Tactical Marine. He does have objectives secured, so they have been joined by the Spirit Seer as the 2 remaining Wraith Guards stomp forward. They're still holding this objective. They and the Iyanden Guardians over here are going to try to eliminate the Tactical Marines that are closing in on their position. Meanwhile, over on this flank, the 2 remaining Dire Avengers, the Striking Scorpion Exarch and the Guardians, they may be joined by this Wave Serpent. They need to drive back the tide of black power armour that is advancing on this objective. It looks like the Eldar are running woefully short on units. The Ravens still have plenty in reserve as well. Let's see how the Eldar get on in Eldar Psychic Phase Turn 3. End of Eldar Psychic Phase Turn 3, and the Spirit Seer, realising the situation is desperate, has summoned up huge power. He perilled putting shrouded on the 2 Wraith Guard remaining, but he was unharmed by that, and then he perilled again, putting invisibility on the Cloud Strike Squadron, but he was once again unharmed. He is taking huge risks to protect his forces, but it is proving effective at the moment. Let's see how the Eldar get on in Eldar's shooting phase, turn 3. End of Eldar's shooting phase, turn 3, and it started very badly over on their right flank. The Guardians did no damage to the 3 tactical marines advancing upon them, and they have retreated 4 inches with their battle focus run. The 2 Wraith Guard managed 2 hits on this tactical squad with their D cannon, but rolled double 1, so no damage. The Dire Avengers managed to eliminate the final tactical marine over here with their firepower, and they are moving to support the 2 Wraith Guard holding this objective. The Fire Dragons were the best effort of the turn. They easily blew the Ironclad Dreadnought to pieces, and they are moving forward. The Cloud Strike Squadron, realising that the Rhinos have objectives secured, they contented themselves with blowing one to pieces, and the fire over on the Eldar left was quite disappointing as well. The Dire Avengers and the Guardians, they managed to take out a tactical sergeant and 1 marine from 1 combat squad, but neither the striking Scorpion Exarch nor the Wave Serpent had any effect with their firing. So the Eldar are under a lot of pressure. There are still a lot of Space Marines moving towards their precious objectives in the centre. Let's see if the striking Scorpion Exarch can destroy at least some of them in Eldar Assault Phase, turn 3. End of Eldar Assault Phase, turn 3, and very disappointingly, the striking Scorpion Exarch was wounded 5 times by bolt rounds and the Flamer as he charged in, and he was taken down before he could take out any Marines with his claw. But the Eldar still do have a lot of strength behind this central rise. They are still holding 2 objectives, and during this turn's shooting phase, Jane Czar and her few remaining Banshees acrobatically leapt into the centre. So if the Ravens want to take these objectives, they are going to have to take on an angry Phoenix Lord. Let's see if any more Raven Guard reinforcements arrive in Raven Guard, turn 3. Start of Raven Guard turn 3, and there must be some sort of atmospheric interference above this battlefield, as once again the Captain, Chaplain and Command Squad in their drop pod and the Tactical Squad in their drop pod have both failed to arrive once again. The Ravens are going to have to take these objectives on foot. Let's see how they get on. Raven Guard movement phase, turn 3. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 3, and without their additional drop pods arriving, the Ravens have decided to turn this into a frontal assault. Their Marines are advancing through the rocky ground. The 1st Tactical Combat Squad with the Flamer, they are going to try to deal with the remaining Guardians, and the other combat squad is going to eliminate the 2 Dire Avengers with a hail of bolt fire. Meanwhile, the Tactical Marines in the centre, they are closing in on Jane Czar and her Banshees. It may be hard to take her out with bolt guns, but if they can take down the Banshees, they may inflict a couple of wounds. Meanwhile, the Vanguard veterans that have been lurking behind the ridge, they have decided that the Wraith Guard have moved close enough for an assault, so they are going in with their lightning claws. The 3 Tactical Marines over here, they are shepherding the Eldar Guardians away. Looks like the Eldar have very little chance of taking the Raven Guard's objective with these 2 Rhinos parked on it. Meanwhile, the Ravens are still refusing to move with their assault squad and their Vanguard veterans. They are clearly under orders to protect the heavy support assets. The Whirlwinds and the Devastators, they have held position. The Whirlwinds are just about in range to drop a blind barrage on the Spirit Seer. The Ravens have decided to ignore the Cloud Strike. It's invisible again, and they think they have enough objective secured units in the centre to seize all of the Eldar objectives on these rocks. So let's see, going into Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 3. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 3, and although they have run out of tactical doctrines, the Devastator doctrine proved very effective, as this tactical squad cleared out the rest of the Iyanden Guardians, and the combat squad moving up in support gunned down both of the remaining Dire Avengers holding this objective. Oh, the Tactical Marines opened fire with a hail of bolter rounds, but only managed to take out 1 Banshee, but it was the supporting fire of the Raven Guard Devastators. From long range, under the effect of the Devastator doctrine, that took out the remaining Banshees, and they have even wounded Jane Czar herself. This tactical squad, they managed 6 hits, but were very disappointed as not a single Guardian fell, but the best firing of the turn came from the whirlwinds of the suppression force. With pinpoint accuracy they landed all of their missiles on top of the Spirit Seer and his bodyguard of Dire Avengers, and they were all blown to pieces. So the Ravens now have racked up a point for Slay the Warlord as well, and that means no more invisibility either. It's been quite a good turn for the Ravens so far. Let's see if the Vanguard can finish off these two Wraith Guard in Raven Guard Assault Phase turn 3. End of Raven Guard Assault Phase turn 3, and the Vanguard, they made it into the two remaining Wraith Guard. They took no damage from Overwatch or in the assault, and with their huge number of shredding lightning claw attacks they took out both remaining Wraith Guards. So the Ravens are looking to be in a very, very strong position. They are holding one objective here. The Devastator's Rhinos are holding another. They have First Blood and Slay the Warlord, and they have also destroyed two of the Eldar heavy support choices. Unfortunately for the Eldar, they are not even holding this objective anymore, so they are trailing by a long way. They desperately need the arrival of the Shining Spears, but will that be enough? The Eldar, really the only assets they have to speak of are Jane Czar, the Cloud Strike, and the Fire Dragons. They have a Wave Serpent and some Guardians, but it's hard to see what effect they are going to have. Let's see. The Shining Spears, they're coming in Eldar turn 4. End of Eldar movement phase turn 4, and the Eldar are determined not to lose this ridgeline and the two vital objectives. They are behind by a long way in this game, but these two objectives will certainly help to claw it back, and to that end they have sent Jane Czar on her own to take on the Vanguard veteran. She's hoping her 2+ save will save her from their lightning claws, and of course she is extremely deadly in assault herself. Over on the right flank, the Iyanden Guardians are retreating. They are giving fire to try to eliminate the tactical marines that are still pursuing them. And in the centre of the Cloud Strike, they have moved back up to occupy the ridgeline. They're going to focus their fire to take out a tactical squad, probably these four here. Meanwhile, the newly arrived Shining Spears have come on exactly where the Eldar need them. They are under orders to take out another tactical squad. The Fire Dragons, they're moving up to take out another, and the Wave Serpent is still here to try to take out as many more tactical marines as it can as well. The Eldar effectively have now formed a battle line along the ridge to try to hold back the tide of Ravens. They still have one Psyker, but it's just a Warlock. Let's see what he can do in Eldar Psychic Phase turn 4. End of Eldar Psychic Phase turn 4. The roll of a 1 gave the Warlock only 2 dice, but he did manage to put Conceal on himself and his Guardians, although what difference that makes is not clear at this stage. The Eldar really need an excellent shooting phase. Eldar Shooting Phase turn 4. End of Eldar Shooting Phase turn 4, and the Guardians, they managed to take out 2 of the pursuing tactical marines. There's only one brother left in this squad, and they have battle focused up back behind the barricades where they started. Jane Czar, as she prepares to charge, she has taken out one Vanguard veteran with a throw of her Triskele, and the Cloud Strike squadron were very effective. They managed to gun down a whole combat squad of tactical marines in the gully. But the Shining Spears, newly arrived, they only took out 2 marines for this squad. There's only one left, but he's still objective secured. That is the Eldar's problem. And worse news, although the Fire Dragons managed 5 hits and 4 wounds on this tactical squad, the Ravens made 3 cover saves, so only one brother went down, and 1 more was shot down by the Wave Serpent, but there's still 3 left. So it looks like in Eldar Assault Phase turn 4, both the Fire Dragons and Jane Czar are going to have to drive the Space Marines back in bloody assault. Let's see. End of Eldar Assault Phase turn 4, and the Fire Dragons made it in to the tactical squad. Neither side could do any damage to the other. They remain locked. That may be a good result, as it protects the Fire Dragons from any return fire and blocks the Raven Guard's access to this objective, which is now once again in Eldar hands, as the Shining Spears have used their Eldar Jet Bike move to boost back and hold it. And the other combat was particularly one-sided, with a mighty raw Jane Czar hacked through all 4 Vanguard veterans with her Blade of Destruction before they could even lift their claws to defend themselves. So the Eldar have achieved their objectives this turn. They are back in control of the ridgeline, both objectives here, but is it enough? Especially as going into Ravengard turn 4 we have 2 more drop pods arriving. Let's see. End of Ravengard movement phase turn 4, and the Eldar forces are now well and truly surrounded. The final 2 drop pods have arrived. One disgorging a tactical squad with a melter and a combi melter to the rear of the Cloud Strike squadron, which is no longer invisible, and the captain, the chaplain and their command squad have also arrived. They are looking to take out the Shining Spears with a hail of bolt and plasma fire. This tactical squad remains locked in combat with the Fire Dragons. Meanwhile, the other combat squad is moving up to use their crack grenades to take out the Wave Serpent, and it looks like the Ravens have been ordered to assault all of the Eldar Grav tanks and take them out, as the jump packers have finally moved forward. This assault squad and the Vanguard, they are targeting the Cloud Strike squadron, as are all the remaining tactical marines. The assault doctrine, the only remaining doctrine left to the Ravens, is in effect, so they are hoping that all of these Eldar skimmers will pay the price. This tactical marine is moving towards Jane Czar. If he thinks he can take her on his own, he is optimistic, but luckily for him the Devastators are under orders to target the Phoenix Lord and take her out, and the Whirlwinds, they may well try to take out the remaining Guardians over on the Eldar right. We shall see. This is looking like it could be the killing blow. Let's see. Ravengard shooting phase turn 4. And a Ravengard shooting phase turn 4, and the newly arrived tactical squad, they only managed 1 penetrating hit on the Cloud Strike squadron. They have shaken the nearest Falcon, but not much effect there really. The command squad with their bolt pistols and their plasma pistols managed to shoot down 1 Shining Spear, and then the drop pods put them to shame by shooting down another and wounding the Exarch. Meanwhile, the Whirlwinds managed to land a missile on top of the remaining Guardians, but the other 2 in the barrage scattered off. But they still managed to take out 2 Guardians and the Warlock. There's only 2 Guardians and their weapons platform left there. But they will not break. They have held morale. And Jane Czar, she was hit by another volley of crack missile. She was wounded 4 times, but only 1 got through her armour. She is alive, but she still has 1 wound left. Quite a quiet phase regarding shooting, but this could be crucial. The assault doctrine's in effect, and the Ravens are preparing to take out the remaining Eldar Grav tanks in Ravengard assault phase turn 4. End of Ravengard assault phase turn 4, and it has been a good one for the Ravens. These tactical marines, they managed to assault the Wave Serpent. They have caused 2 hull points, but crucially they have immobilised it, so they will be able to finish it off in the next assault phase. The tactical marines and the Fire Dragons, they remain unable to harm each other, but the big news of this phase, the Vanguard and all the tactical marines, they made it into the Cloud Strike squadron. The assault marines failed their charge, but under the effect of the assault doctrine, the Vanguard and the tactical marines, all 10 of them, managed to hit with their crack grenades, taking out 2 of the Falcons. There's only 1 left. The Raven Guard are very close to scoring yet another victory point for another heavy support choice destroyed. The Eldar are still in control of 1 objective here with the Shining Spears and 1 with Jane Czar herself, but it is looking like this game is slipping beyond the Eldar. Let's see if they can pull it back in Eldar turn 5. End of Eldar movement phase turn 5, and it really is desperate stuff from the Eldar. Now they have very few units that are free to move, and they are trying to safeguard the 2 objectives they are holding. The Shining Spears, their plan is to dive into these tactical marines to free up the Fire Dragons. Then maybe they together can form a defensive line around this objective. Meanwhile, this objective must be held, and to that end the Guardians are going to try and take out this tactical marine with their star cannon. The last remaining Falcon from the Cloud Strike has moved over and perched up on this ruined building to take out these tactical marines, and Jane Czar, She is hoping to take out this squad and somehow consolidate back within 3 inches. It's very difficult for the Eldar, as all of these Raven Guard have objectives secured, so they cannot just sit on the objectives, they have to drive the Ravens away. But they have precious few units left to do it. This Wave Serpent's days are clearly numbered as well. It cannot move. So the Eldar have also lost all of their Psykers, both Warlocks and the Spirit Seer. They have all fallen. So we move straight into Eldar shooting phase, turn 5. End of Eldar shooting phase, turn 5, and the Wave Serpent desperately unloaded all of its weaponry into the Tactical Marines to try and get them away from its hull, but failed to do any damage. The Shining Spears, they intend to join an assault, so they have not fired. The Falcon managed to take out 2 Tactical Marines from this squad, cresting this rocky rise, but there are 2 left, and Janzar has managed to take out 2 Tactical Marines from the newly arrived drop pod with her Triskele. But as the Guardians with their Star Cannon rolled a double 1 to hit, it looks like there is nothing the Eldar can do to stop the Raven Guard taking this objective in their next turn. So Janzar is going to content herself with hacking the rest of this squad to pieces, going into Eldar assault phase, turn 5. End of Eldar assault phase, turn 5, and the Wave Serpent was easily taken out by the crack grenades of the Tactical Marines that were still in base-to-base contact with it. But good news for the Eldar, the intervention of the Shining Spears was exactly what the Fire Dragons needed. They easily killed all the remaining Tactical Marines, and they have consolidated. The Shining Spears are trying to block off the Raven Guard captain and his command squad, while the Fire Dragons, they are desperately holding the objective, but they have problems approaching. Vanguard and Assault Marines, we shall see how they get on with that. Janzar easily hacked through the remainder of this tactical squad, but how can she alone hold this objective against these objectives secured Raven Guard Tactical Marines? The Falcon is still there in the centre, but it's worth another victory point, so it may well take some fire. Going into Raven Guard, turn 5. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 5, and the Ravens are looking to annihilate all of the Eldar remaining on the table. These Vanguard, they have moved up through cover. They have not used their jump packs yet. They have got their eyes fixed on the Fire Dragons around this objective, but first the Fire Dragons are going to take fire from this tactical squad that have formed a firing line on this landing pad. The Captain and the Chaplain, they are preparing to destroy the last 2 Shining Spears, and if the Falcon is not taken out by the huge amount of fire still coming out of the Raven Guard back line, the 2 Devastator squads and the 3 Whirlwinds, then this assault squad are getting ready to assault it with their crack grenades. Meanwhile, the few remaining Tactical Marines, they have moved to surround this objective. 1 Marine is a unit, and these 2 are a separate unit, so it's going to be hard for Janzar to take out both of them. And the Whirlwinds may decide that this Star Cannon needs to go for that reason as well. We don't want the Star Cannon taking out one of them, allowing Janzar to take out the rest. So the Ravens appear to have an answer for everything at the moment. Let's see how they get on in their 5th shooting phase. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 5, and the end is nigh for Craftworld Iyanden. The Whirlwinds, they managed to land all 3 of their barrages with 3 hits on the last 2 Guardians, blowing them to pieces, and the Falcon paid the price for exposing itself to the Raven Guard Devastators. They managed 4 penetrating hits, and it also went down. Meanwhile, a very accurate hail of bolter fire from these Tactical Marines took out 2 Fire Dragons and wounded the Exarch. The Vanguard are still preparing to charge them, and disappointingly, the command squad, the Captain and the Chaplain, failed to take out any Shining Spears as they prepare to charge them. But the best news of the turn for the Ravens, and the worst for the Eldar, was as Janzar tried to skip back behind these rocks, all of the automated storm bolters on these drop pods swiveled towards her, and embarrassingly, the Phoenix Lord was gunned down by a hail of bolter rounds from the drop pods. So things are looking grim from the Eldar. This could well be a tabling. The Eldar forces are all here, and they are about to receive assaults in Raven Guard Assault Phase Turn 5. End of Raven Guard Assault Phase Turn 5, and the Vanguard veterans made it in to the Fire Dragons. They took no damage and shredded the Eldar Aspect Warriors. Meanwhile, the captain led his command squad against the Shining Spears. He issued a challenge. The Exarch felt honour bound to accept and was felled by the captain's power sword. The last Shining Spear didn't stand a chance against the attacks of all of the captain's bodyguard with their power weapons. And that brings this game to a close, as the Eldar have no forces left on the table. The Raven Guard have got all three objectives. One here worth 3, one here worth 3, and the Tactical Marines have another one. That's 9 points. They also managed to get First Blood and slay the Warlord. They killed the Spirit Seer. They've also got Linebreaker with this drop pod as well. So that's 12. And they also managed to destroy the Wraith Lord, the Dark Reapers and the Cloud Strike Squadron, bringing their final score to 15. And the Eldar, they have not managed to get a single point. This battle has not gone their way. The final score is 15-0 to the Raven Guard. And we think once again this demonstrates how deadly a Gladius Strike Force can be at this sort of points level. There is still an absolute sea of black on the table. Huge amounts. The Devastators, the Whirlwinds, and even the troops sent in to assault the ridge to take the objectives. There are still plenty of them left. The Ravens were able to assault in waves because the Gladius gives them so many units on the table that have objectives secured, and the tactical doctrines are deadly, especially when coming down in drop pods. So the Eldar, they didn't have the run of luck this game, but we think the Gladius Strike Force is a deadly, deadly detachment. So in the case of this scenario, it's certainly true. In the Raven Guard backline, the Whirlwinds and the Devastators, that the big guns certainly never tire. Thanks very much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this battle report. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 battle reports as we can. See ya!